Hey everyone, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle presented and brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host JR, and today we are going to be talking about some big news out of Happy Valley there with Penn State and some stuff going on with Penn State news on the horizon. A lot of coaching rumors and everything going on out there, and this does, in fact, involve some other teams in the Big Ten. So you could say it's not just Penn State news, but it's Ohio State news, Big Ten news, whatever you want to call it. And of course, whenever we are talking Penn State in a deep topic like this, we're going to bring in our guy Chris, who knows a thing or two about what's going on over there at Penn State. Chris, I'm just going to kick it to you and let you kind of fill everybody in on what's going on. Last time you were here, we talked about Matt Rhule, we talked about Matt Campbell, some other people. Well, you and Zach did. I was tending to my sick
Right.
family a lot, but there's been some new names that have emerged here lately. What are those names, and what are you hearing on them?
Three main names, but as of right now, the three main names I'm hearing are Brian Hartline, Jeff Brohm, and Eli Drinkwitz. They're, as of right now, I think the top three candidates. The Matt Rhule stuff, when Franklin first got fired, I was told, and Matt Rhule is still in there, but he's now more of a long shot. But the Matt Rhule stuff was more so that it was kind of his job to leave. His job to lose if he kept progressing with Nebraska and kept them improving. If he lost another, like if he finished with like worse than two or three losses, definitely three losses, that he was probably going to be out of it. Because at the time he had one loss and he was looking good. But after that, laying an egg against Minnesota and looking horrible and offense really not improving too much, that really hurt his chances and his stock. He's still in it, but I would think he's in the bottom half of the candidates that they're looking at. And with these coaching searches, it just seems like information out there, and the little tidbits I get, it changes literally daily almost. But the Brian Hartline smoke is real. It seems like some Ohio State guys and people in general, why would he leave Ohio State in the middle of the year? But from my understanding, from what I saw, I was told, it was actually Brian Hartline that initiated contact with Pat Kraft. He definitely wants the job, and he is definitely a top three candidate. I don't know between Hartline, Drink, and Brohm who will get it. And it's not even a guarantee that those three will be the name. But if I had to put money on it right now, I would think it's very likely that it's one of those three. I know he really impressed Brian Hartline, really impressed Pat Kraft with his initial conversation, and I know from my understanding, there's been some follow-ups. But the thing with the situation that's tricky is that initially Pat Kraft, and he still might go this route, wanted an established head coach. Like, this is a huge hire, a can't miss hire, and he really wanted an established head coach to hit the ground running. And his top tier guys, besides Rhule, which kind of crazy to say Matt Rhule's a tier one candidate, but his top guys besides him were Kalen DeBoer and Mike Elko. But that's not going to happen now. They're going to be in the playoffs, and why would they leave their situation? Now, I know Penn State's looking to spend big money. Like, Mike Elko's only making $7 million with A&M, and I know Penn State was looking to pay him north of $12 million. I mean, I'm hearing numbers that they could go up to 13, 14 million, even with whoever it is they hire, depending on the bidding and all that stuff. And there's already, supposedly, from what the Ohio State side says and what people in the know say, that there's even a plan in place if Hartline does accept the job and leaves for Penn State. Now, you wouldn't do it middle of the year; it would probably be more at the end of the regular season. But there's definitely a lot of smoke there. Jeff Brohm,
Well, and
interesting.
let me touch on Brian Hartline really fast, because if you were an Ohio State fan out there and you think like, oh, Brian Hartline would never leave, this is Ohio State, this is where he was. Brian Hartline almost left last offseason for a head coaching job. I'm not sure if that's public information out there a whole lot. I think that's been mostly on message boards, but he was about to leave for a job, and then he got the promotion to offensive coordinator. If he did not get that promotion, my understanding was that he would have left for another job. Offensive coordinator, Ohio State, is a very good job, but it's still something that you do to get to another job. And that doesn't mean that Brian Hartline would never come back to Ohio State, if Ryan Day would move on. And I think that's probably a fear of some Penn State fans is, well, if we hire Brian Hartline, is he just going to leave for Ohio State? If Ryan Day leaves Ohio State. So there is some fear of that, I'm sure. But overall, like, don't discount that Brian Hartline could leave Ohio State for someplace else, because with, great championships and everything else also comes everybody wanting to come after your program. Chris, tell me what you think about this comparison really fast. To me, Brian Hartline to Penn State would be the Northern version's attempt at Kirby Smart to Georgia.
I agree with that. And I've said that. Now, people think like I'm jumping the gun. It's a little crazy because, Kirby Smart was a defense coordinator for so many years, and Brian Hartline just started as a coordinator. But I agree with that. It's not an apples to apples comparison. But I think Brian Hartline, his prime, he wants to move up. And I mean, he's been, from my understanding, the best recruiter in college football for years. One of the best, easily, even prior to NIL. And I love that comparison. Like, I mean, I know he doesn't have the head coaching experience, and this might sound crazy, but I think that could be kind of overrated in today's game with NIL and recruiting. And if you surround yourself with, good offense coordinators, defensive coordinators, and you have the NIL resources in place, and, he's a great recruiter. It's just as much about roster construction as it is anything else. So, I mean, I definitely want Brian Hartline. I absolutely want Brian Hartline.
Yeah, one more thing, and then we'll move on to the next one. I was just going to say, I think in today's day and age, hiring a coordinator seems to be the best route, in my opinion. If you can find a good head coach at a lower level, like I think LSU should go after John Summerall right now. He's in the area. He knows the people there. He's been successful at Tulane. That just makes sense to me. But Penn State doesn't have a lower level program that has been in the top 25 here recently with a long-standing coach. So it makes sense to go out and get a coordinator like Oregon went out and got Dan Lanning, like Georgia went out and got Kirby Smart. And I'm with you. I don't even think that coordinator experience is the most important thing out there. You look at Urban Meyer, yeah, he rose up the ranks, but he was never a coordinator. He was a wide receiver coach at Notre Dame. Took a job as a head coach at a lower school. Sure, he had some time to learn, but as long as Penn State fans are willing to be patient and understand that Brian Hartline's going to take 2 or 3 years before, he really kind of excels into who he truly can be, I think you're making a great hire in the long run, in my opinion. If it happens.
I really hope it's him. Listen, if he gets offered the job, he's taking it. I mean, I'm just saying that flat out. And the guy it's not like he doesn't know football. I mean, the guy's been probably the best program in America and brought all those
played in the NFL too. Yeah,
in.
He knows what he's talking about.
And he played, and just the recruiting aspect is huge. And I heard, now I don't know if this is in regards to Brian Hartline or one of the other top candidates, but everything I'm hearing, and it's being reported by some multiple people, inside information, that's just a lot of smoke with Brian Hartline. And there's already tentative deals, and they're not saying exactly who, probably Hartline, but tentative deals already worked out, verbally worked out about, money. I don't know what the number is, but like contractually and already planning on when you could come over and all that. So I'm psyched up for Hartline. Other interesting name that seemed to come up past couple of days was Jeff Brohm. Initially from what I heard, Jeff Brohm probably wouldn't leave Louisville because that's his alma mater, where he's from, his family, all that stuff. But supposedly Jeff Brohm's people reached out to Penn State, and there's some interest there. But that's another tricky situation because Louisville has one loss, and they could potentially make the playoffs. It's a pretty log jam at the top of the ACC right now. But it's one of those things that, like, I think Penn State has to weigh and is doing that is, do you gamble on waiting for a potential head coach that might make the playoffs? Do you wait till January or whatever? And then if you miss out, you're screwed. Or do you go the route of like a Brian Hartline or a Joe Brady? So, because Joe Brady's name came up, but I don't think he's a tier 1 guy, and I don't think he's going to get it at this point. But that's the gamble, and they're, it's an important hire, but they're losing recruits left and right. I mean, I know that happens with a coaching change, and you could build through the portal, but I mean, they're losing some huge recruits. Kevin Brown is probably the best offensive line recruit maybe Penn State's ever recruited. He's with, I think, the 27 class, and he's going to visit Ohio State. You guys get him, man. That guy's a stud. Forget if he's 27 or 26 class offhand for some reason, but he's 26 class, and 27 class. But anyways, they're just a lot of decommitments. So I'm sure that kind of factors into it too. Like, you want to get the right hire, so you don't want to rush it, but at the same time, the sooner a coach gets here, the sooner you could salvage some commitments. I mean, every day they lost 2 of their best receiver commits. They lost a safety commit today, and it's just too much. They lost one of their top D tackle commits, and but that happens. So Jeff Brohm is interesting. Eli Drinkwitz's name came up a lot. He's been right there in the search throughout this whole time. I think from my understanding, there's genuine interest there. But he's also more of an SEC Southern guy whose name is going to be floating around, probably with the LSU opening, possibly the Florida opening as a fallback to Dan if Dan Lanning doesn't go, or shoot, not Lanning, Lane Kiffin doesn't go through. So, there's talks like he's a good coach. Is he a cultural fit coming up north? But they're the 3 names I'm hearing right now. And with Eli Drinkwitz, the thing is, he could be using these openings as leverage. That's another thing, like how you're talking in your intro, where all these different openings, it's kind of, it gets to the point of poop or get off the pot, because now you want to lock somebody up before someone else does. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Penn State over the next few weeks will probably know their guy for sure, maybe even sooner than that. There's been some reports it could happen sooner. Don't know if it will be announced publicly that soon, but they're the 3 guys I would look at, the fallback guys: Matt Rhule, Manny Diaz. There's some wavering interest in Matt Campbell, I've heard here and there, but I don't think it's going to be him. And what's crazy is, whenever people are bringing up Urban Meyer was reportedly in Pennsylvania this past week in Central PA, and he was with, I think, Tim McCormick, some politician guy that's connected with Penn State. And whenever the name Urban Meyer is brought up to like insiders, they're saying that it's very tight-lipped. Whenever stuff about Urban Meyer at Penn State is brought up, they're just not saying a word. Now, I think that's an extreme long shot, but it's out there. So, I didn't take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think Urban's best days of coaching are probably behind him. I don't know if he would excel as much, knowing being someone who followed the program very, very closely when he was the coach at Ohio State. I mean, I was doing shows at that time and everything. Like, Urban style, I don't think fits the current era of college football super well. But he is a big name, and he's definitely someone that would get recruits and everything really excited. We're going to move on here in just a second, but I did want to bring up, because you were talking about coaches possibly making the playoffs, and just for reference, on FanDuel, you can get Missouri at plus 980 right now to make the playoffs, minus 2,200 to not make it. Those are about the same odds for them not to make it as Indiana has right now to make the playoffs. So, or no, not right now, a couple weeks ago to make the playoffs. So, pretty likely at this point that Missouri's probably not going to make it. And then Louisville, they do have good odds to make the playoffs at plus 245. That's significantly lower there than Missouri. It's not negative, but it does look like good odds. So, yeah, looks like Eli Drinkwitz would be the closer one there. What'd you say?
I don't think they have a lot of tough games left. Like, I mean,
No.
it's a logjam at the top of the ACC. I mean, they got Pitt, they got Kentucky. I forget who else, but it doesn't, but there's a lot of one-loss SEC or ACC teams, it seems, at the top right now.
Yeah, it's just if the ACC gets gets the recognition by the CFP to do it, we'll see. We'll know a lot more once the CFP comes out with
Yeah,
their
yeah.
rankings. If you think you know what the CFP is going to do, go on over to FanDuel and bet some of these teams because you can make some money. Because I have a feeling that the CFP is not going to, this College Football Playoff Committee is not going to have the same rankings as the AP this year. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hopeful, but that's kind of what I'm thinking so far. Anyway, let's move on. Topic number or piece of news
Probably
number
not. There's going to be
two.
some differences.
Yeah. Piece of news number two, Terry Smith came out and started talking about the younger wide receivers, Tysier Denmark being one of them that you could see more for Penn State in this upcoming game against Ohio State. Chris, you were on this show at the beginning of the season saying it's not the wide receivers. The wide receivers are, getting open at times, but it was the quarterbacks. And you were right, but it still looks like Penn State does have some wide receiver issues this season. And I think it's smart to give the young guys some time out there. What are your thoughts on Tysier Denmark and possibly some other younger wide
100%.
receivers?
100%. And when I was on that initial show with you, Tyser Denmark was one of the names I kept bringing up and saying to watch out for. And it's insane that Franklin has not played him sooner. You could tell me about consistency, this, that, and whatever. I mean, the guy is good. I'm not saying he's Ohio State level like Cardinal Tate, but the guy is very talented. Word out of camp, his own players are hyping him up. And the thing with what I was saying, like with the quarterback situation, I do think last year I think the receivers last year, specifically Harrison Wallace, were better than anything they got this year. I mean, Harrison Wallace is better than Trevor Payne and Kyron Hudson, and those guys aren't doing anything. And so I do think more so last year, the quarterback played more of a role. This year, these guys aren't getting open, and Coddle Mickey's scheme is horrendous. I mean, he doesn't do anything to get them open. Football route running, it's not. You don't have to be a football genius to understand that you have to get open in man coverage. And I'm reviewing some of these films, like the overhead. I don't get the all 22, but clips of whatever I could get. And they're running like these deep digs. Kyron Hudson, Trevor Payne, they're not the fastest guys. And it's almost like they're just going through the motions, not even trying to get open. Like, it's just so easy to guard them. They're running these deep digs. They're not making sure. When you're in your route, you got to sell a fake. You got to give a quick jab step. You got to sell a fake. You have to get at the top of your route stem. You got to get the DB's hips turned, flip, leaning one way, break the other way. These guys didn't do this. I mean, it just looked like horrible route running. And Trevor Payne was supposed to be this good route runner. But Tyser Denmark, I seen a replay versus Iowa. Drunkenmeyer missed him. He didn't go to him, but he did that and got separation. And another name to watch out for besides Denmark is Kobe Howard. He's a true freshman, came up here from Florida, 4-star. And he's not a burner, but he's a baller. He's another guy that's just a very good route runner, naturally good football player, and he was hyped up all camp. Franklin, just being the stubborn person he was saying, oh, he has to earn it on special teams first and this and that. Like, listen, play to win the game. I don't care if you're a true freshman, fourth-year senior. If this guy could help you especially at a position where you're struggling at, you play him. And it just got so crazy that they continued. Like this is one of the Franklin's problems. He was just so scared of change, and he didn't know how to change. So yeah, I mean, I wish Denmark and Kobe Howard got more run earlier before they face Ohio State's defense, because that's going to be a tough task. But I'm very excited to see what these guys can do, for sure.
Oh yeah, and you're exactly right. A lot of this route running stuff is confidence too. I mean, to go out there and press a DB and actually give them a threat. If the DB doesn't feel like they have a threat, they're just going to follow you around the entire time. And some of this could also be that the wide receivers at this point are just like, I'm not getting the ball anyway. So, they could just be pouting. I do not know if that's the case with a Trevor Payne or anything like that, but it would be a natural thing for a wide receiver to say, well, if I'm not going to get the ball, I'm not going to run all that hard, right?
It could be. I mean, I just don't know where the coaching's at. They're a wide receiver coach at Penn State. This Marcus Hagen's been he's took a lot of criticism for not developing guys, and he started recruiting better. But I just don't get it. I mean, it's just coaching route running should not be the most complicated thing. And I think with Nicky's scheme, I think last year Tyler Warren masked so much, because a lot of his scheme, like last year, was just free up Tyler Warren, and it worked well. This year, it's like I said, Penn State's offense doesn't have an identity. And I think I said this the other show. When Michigan had Harbaugh, they tried to go to a spread in the middle of his career a little bit with Josh Gaz. It didn't work out. So Harbaugh went back to his bread and butter, pro set, power run, and he didn't stray from it. That's what he does best. Schools like Tennessee with Josh Heupel, Ole Miss with Kiffin, they're pure spread offense. They don't try to blend two different things together. And I think what Nicky does is he's too gimmicky. I think he designs plays specifically, not every play, but I think he designs plays specifically to target one person to free him up, where his other 2-3 targets are just kind of like going through the motions. But the route running and the route concepts are some of the worst I've seen. And they weren't good under Mike Yurcik either, but now they're really bad. They're really bad. So
yeah, I said it after the Iowa game. I think it was. There's the clothing brand out there, SEC Pretty. Looked like Nicky this season is trying to be Penn State Pretty with some of the gimmicky stuff in the offense and everything.
It looks creative at first, but it's always covered. It's totally covered. And I don't know. I don't think he knows how to free guys up anymore. He used to hear, okay, scheme the receivers open. With his gimmicky stuff, it's not working.
Yeah.
And I just think he has a hard time running a quick stop and go, like a quick hitch off the line, pump fake, run hard 5 yards, boom, turn around, fake, go, like rubber. Like they just, there's just nothing in their route running they do to really get open that I've seen from Kyron Hudson and Trevor Pena. Ross is a quick guy. I think he's decent, but Trevor Pena and Kyron Hudson is just been a huge letdown.
Huge. We'll see if Tysier Denmark and Kobe Howard get some run and get that game and what they can do. All right, final thing here, Chris. Penn State or Ohio State is favored by 20.5 in this one over Penn State. But some good news for Penn State. This is our third piece of good news for them, is that it sounds like Zariah Fisher and Vega Iona, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. I apologize if it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Good. Those two are coming back for this game. Terry Smith said in the press conference leading up to the game. Zariah Fisher, definitely somebody that could come back and help after he got injured, and then Vega been out for a little bit. He's definitely going to help in the run blocking, and looks like that run game is much better with Katron Allen now, and so that is a threat that Ohio State's going to have to be ready for. Your thoughts on those two returning, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Vega Ione has probably been the best offensive lineman we've had this year. So him coming back is key. Zariah Fisher, he's been kind of a letdown. I like him as he's a good kid. I met him, but he's been kind of a letdown this year. So I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have. Chaz Coleman is a true freshman that got a lot of play early on, and he has a tremendous amount of twitch, incredible bend. He looks like he's made of elastic. I would rather see. I think they're young outside of Denai Dennis Sutton. I think they're younger. Some of their younger edges are better. Like I'd rather see Chaz Coleman more than Zariah Fisher. And Yvonne Camacho is another true freshman. They initially were going to recruit as a D tackle, but he's twitchy enough to be an edge, and he's like 6'3", 240, 250-ish. And he's very physical. I'd rather see them guys. But here's the thing that kills me is, Terry Smith finally runs Katron Allen a lot. He's doing the right thing there, and he's trying to play young receivers. But then earlier in his press conference, I think earlier this week sometime earlier this week, he's talking about trying to get Nick Singleton going again. Well, don't do it in the run game. I mean, like, I don't know. They're going to get killed if I was betting on the game. I wouldn't bet Penn State. I probably wouldn't touch it, but I think they're really going to struggle. And I think Ohio State could just score so easily on Noll's defense at this point, man. It's just, just too many holes.
We'll see.
Right
Knowles is going to be really motivated for this game, I'm sure. I don't know if that will be a good thing to simplify the defense or if that will be a bad thing for him to make it more complicated. We'll definitely see. Me and Zach will be back on Tuesday night on the Big Ten Huddle to preview it all. We'll definitely talk about this game. You can catch it Wednesday morning on the podcast as well. It'll be a topic of discussion. We'll preview it, predict it, and get to it all. Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, that's it, man. Just psyched up to see who the next head coach is. I hope it's Hartline. If it's not Hartline, I guess Brohm, but don't know how good of a recruiter Brohm will be. Good coach. Just psyched up to see who the next head coach is and go from there. That's it.
All right. Good stuff. Anywhere you want to tell people to find you at, Chris?
I go on Mark Lesko's podcast. This is called the Mark Lesko podcast. Other than that, I don't do my own thing or anything like that. But Mark and Brett are good guys. They have a pretty good show. And other than that, that's really all I do. And I come on here, obviously, sometimes.
Good stuff. All right. Well,
Alrighty.
Chris, we appreciate you coming on here, and we'll talk to you next time. And everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Go ahead and like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and really helps out the show and helps us to bring you more good Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball content. Have a good one. We'll see you.